Hello everyone, welcome back to another video in our third unit on EDA. Again, the focus of this unit is on plotting for data science, and in this video we're going to talk about encoding data types. So you might remember from the previous videos we were plotting the MPG dataset from Seaborn, and we were making a plot that had weight along the x-axis, miles per gallon along the y-axis, and place of origin as the color. And in this kind of video, we're going to talk about encoding data types. So kind of thinking about the charts from the previous video, we see there's all kinds of different data being represented. So place of origin is a string, weight and miles per gallon. So miles per gallon, we can think of, I like to think of it as integers, but I know in the data set it's stored as floats. And sorry, the deep note notebook is starting up. So that's kind of why this is going on. So kind of let me just run these two cells. Oops, and this is not going to run because I don't have our data frame. Oh, no, it did. Okay, good. So we'll wait for this to output. So as I was saying, miles per gallon, it's usually thought of as an integer. I know in the data set it's stored as a float. So kind of all I want to say here is kind of how does Altair know what to do with the different data types, right? So in particular the strings, maybe it's a little surprising how it knows to deal with it. And the point of this video is going to be talking about how this encoding happens. So the key point is this idea of quantitative versus categorical data. And this distinction is going to be very important for us when we get to machine learning next week. And the idea is Altair picks different default values based on the type of data being encoded, but that's not to say that just because it's the default value, it's necessarily the best choice. There are many situations where you specifying the data encoding is going to be better than the default value. So from the Altair documentation here, I have the 5 main data types that are recognized by Altair. So let's talk a little bit about each of them. So I'll say these are the 5 main data types recognized by Altair. And again, we're just going to talk a little bit about each of them. So first up, we have quantitative. And this is really any ordinary numeric data type. So I'll say any ordinary numeric data type. And this can be like floats. And maybe some examples. So examples, we could think about weight in our miles per gallon data set. We could also talk about the miles per gallon in our MPG data set. But I'll say because we usually think of miles per gallon as a positive integer, we have another option that makes sense here, which we'll get to in just a moment. So kind of the description that Altair provides, continuous real valued quantity. So anything that you can imagine existing on some continuous kind of spectrum of numbers. Next up in the list, we have ordinal and nominal. So I'll write those down. So ordinal and nominal are examples of what we call categorical data. So the point here is that values are represented by distinct categories or classes. So some examples. So for ordinal, so kind of from the name order, so kind of this data type has a natural ordering to it. So for example, we could think of the miles per gallon, right? So these are going to be integers 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Hopefully we don't have a car that gets 0 miles per gallon, but we could think of the miles per gallon in the MPG dataset. Versus nominal, on the other hand, so it does not have a natural ordering to it. So for example, this would be the location in our MPG dataset, or I guess it's called the origin column. So again, remember we had 3 places of origin, Europe, Japan, and the US. Again, no reason for them to appear in any order or the other. I guess you could argue maybe based on like alphabetical order, and I've totally spelled nominal wrong here. But typically when Altair sees string values, it interprets it as nominal. So, okay, we talked about quantitative, ordinal, nominal. What about temporal? So as you might expect, so temporal deals with time. So this deals with date time-like objects. I think we might see 1 or 2 homeworks with this in Math 10, but it's not something we'll be dealing with too much in terms of data encoding and plotting. And the last one is this geographic data, so like geographic. So this deals with geographic data like maps. And I don't think this has ever been done in one of our Math 10 classes, but it could be something you look into more during your final project if you're interested. So again, that was just a little bit about the data types recognized by Altair. Again, it's going to pick certain default ones based on the type of data you have. For instance, if you give it floats, it's going to kind of default it to quantitative. If you give it strings, it'll default to nominal. But that's not always the best choice. So there's a lot of freedom for us to kind of decide what data types best fit. Hi everyone, editing me here. The original recording of this video ended up being a little bit longer than I'd like, so I've decided to split the video into 2 pieces. So otherwise, I think this is a good place to end this video, and I will see you in the next one.